Imagine that you are the person who was carrying that large window pane that now lies in shattered shards around your feet. You look at the pieces in dismay because you realize that you can no longer put these pieces back to their former smooth, translucent self. But suddenly, a smile lightens your face. You smile because you see forms of mosaic art that these pieces of glass can form. You see that because now you're looking at the spaces between the pieces of glass. I'm Dr. Frank Douglas, the CEO and founder of Safe Haven Dialogues. I'm also the host of the Reframing for Resilience podcast. In this podcast, we engage guests and discuss situations where they use different approaches to solve problems. In short, where they reframed the problem. And we also try to understand how those approaches helped with resilience. Welcome, everyone. This is Dr. Frank Douglas, founder and CEO of Safe Haven Dialogues and host of Reframing for Resilience. Today, we have a wonderful guest who will be telling us about reframing as a doctor faced with decisions, particularly with respect to healthcare of women. Dr. Edwards is the founder and CEO of Zara Medical. Welcome, Dr. Edwards.
Thanks for having me.
One little tidbit, Dr. Edwards just graduated with her MBA. So she's both a doctor and an MBA. Congratulations.
Thank you very kindly. I appreciate that.
So, Dr. Edwards, could you just introduce yourself to our audience? And by way of introduction, could you put it within the context of reframing? Two or three significant things that caused you to reframe in your life's journey.
Sounds good. So I'm Jessica Edwards. I'm a board-certified family medicine physician. I'm a wife and mom of two. One of my children is on the autism spectrum. And I just graduated with my MBA, as you said. A couple of scenarios where I've had to reframe. I would say one is when I was practicing in Texas with my first job out of residency after my OB fellowship. And I made the choice to leave the private practice where I was working. Once I made that decision, all of my pregnant patients who had Medicaid were dismissed from that practice. And so I was sort of forced into entrepreneurship, which was at the time a little scary for me, but it wasn't scary for my husband. And so, he told me, he said, this is an opportunity for you to reshape, your hours and decide when you want to work. And so it was a moment initially of fear for me that turned into a moment of resilience and strength by being able to open up my own practice and take care of those patients. And so that was a great moment for me. I would say another reframing moment that I had to have was when my son was diagnosed with autism. That was a very emotional day for me. We had been seeing signs and symptoms. We discussed it with his preschool teachers, and I know actually he was 2 at the time, so he was like in the tiger class, I believe that's what they called it at the time. And we went in the middle of COVID to get him diagnosed. And I remember the doctor calling me ahead of time and saying, hey, are you sure you want to come get him diagnosed today? COVID is going on. And I just remember telling her, I said, if something happens to me and I find out what's going on with him and I can set him up for success for the rest of his life, I will be fine. And so when she gave me the diagnosis of autism and, also saying that he was nonverbal, I remember bawling in her office. I mean, I lost it and I cried, and she gave me a couple minutes and she said, give yourself today to grieve. give yourself today to go through the what ifs. And she said, tomorrow when you wake up, I want you to be resilient. I want you to focus on making his life the best version that it can be so that he can be the most successful that he can be, and take your ego and feelings out of it. And so since that day, I have dedicated my career, my time, my energy to making sure that he and my family are supported first, and everything else follows afterwards in, being a happy, resilient person, and making sure that I am the best version of myself so that I can be the best doctor to my patients. And then I'd say the last moment of resilience and reframing was when I had an opportunity. I was chief medical officer of a healthcare startup in Brooklyn. That opportunity came to an end abruptly due to funding. And I was in this position where I could either go work for, another company in their leadership, or I could start my own practice again. And in that moment, I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. And I developed the courage to be fully telehealth. I was kind of on the fence about it previously. I wasn't sure if it could be done. And I, created an entire strategy for making sure that my patients received physical kits and making sure that we were able to monitor crucial things for their health. And here I am months later, graduating with my MBA as well.
In terms of just in terms of timing, this last episode of Reframing into telehealth, where was that with respect to when you left the other practice? Did that
Almost
occur
1 year
immediately after
ago. It was almost 1 year ago today.
that you left the other practice, or that you started telehealth?
When the other practice closed, I started telehealth about a month later.
About a month later.
So
Now,
June of last year.
yes. Well, when the first practice, when you left that practice, you had about 19 patients on Medicaid, etc. What was the timing of that with respect to this CMO position in Brooklyn?
That was in 2019.
Mhm.
And so I started my own practice, and then I kind of went through a traumatic event with my second pregnancy,
Mhm.
because once you're over the age of 35, you're considered geriatric. And
Yeah.
so I really became immersed in the healthcare system for the first time in my adult life. I was going to the doctor every other week. I was going to have to see, maternal fetal medicine. I was going to see my regular OBGYN and monitoring other health conditions. And after I had my daughter, it was a pretty traumatic delivery. I decided to close my practice so that I could focus on my children. And I thought it was a better idea to go work for other startups and kind of get into that space. So I began that journey in like 2022. And then, like I said, the opportunity ended in 2024 of last year.
Uh-huh. And then you went into telehealth.
Yes.
Yes. Just an incredible journey. And talking about resilience, these are incredible, uh, incredible examples of reframing and building resilience. Uh, and what is interesting to me is that you were also on that other side, namely of being the patient, and being the patient with what I would say, quote unquote, because of age, a high risk pregnancy because of age. And so you went through that, you understand it also from the patient side. So
Yeah.
you bring to your practice also that empathy of having gone through it. Uh, did that help in any way to change your perspective, help with reframing?
It did. I think for me, it really solidified the importance of relationships with your patients in primary care. So, for instance, last night, my last patient of the evening booked her appointment. She was my last appointment, and I asked her, I said, "Hey, how you doing tonight?" And she's like, "Dr. Evers, can I be honest?" And she's like, "I've got a bunch of crap going on."
Mhm.
And so I told her, I said, "Just start from the top. I'm listening. I'm here with you. Just let me hear it all." And I said, "We'll make a plan together." And I think listening is a really important skill that I have developed over the last few years, and really not just listening to document, but listening to understand, listening to hear the concerns, listening to hear the hesitations and the frustrations, to be able to create and craft a plan for my patient that isn't, overarchingly trying to tell them what to do, but to let them know, hey, I'm your partner. I've gone to medical school, I've done residency, I've done fellowship. I'm here to provide you sound guidance with your health. And so, for instance, with that patient last night, I ended up spending about 40 minutes with her. And by the end of the call, she felt so much better. And she was so thankful for the care that I was able to provide her.
Yep. And in your own personal journey, you had to learn something that is so important in the reframing, namely the desired outcome and who is really the important person in that desired outcome. In your case, it was your son and your family. And the advice you got was, okay, spend a day or so grieving and then focus on your family and your son. And you decided that you were going to be sure that they had, and particularly your son, the best care he could possibly have, which means that you then had to focus on him and his needs.
Correct.
How does that translate beyond your day-to-day challenges and taking care of your son? How does that impact the way you work with your patients? I think you gave us a bit of an example, but tell us a little bit more.
I think it does a couple of things for me. One, I have the mom perspective where I can juggle multiple things at one time. Sometimes I have one screaming in the background, the other one chasing the other one around the house. And it's taught me how to multitask really well. I would also say I think it's helped me try to develop efficiency and really smooth operations, because it's similar to, when you have to take the kid, when you say, okay, guys, we're going to do a family event today. And so you have this idea, hey, we're going to go to the mall as a family. And so many different things come up. You got one who, one who just, had a number two and has a dirty diaper. You have another one who's, doesn't want to put on their clothes. And you have to kind of bring everything together at one time to say, okay, this is our objective. Okay, honey, I need you to grab the stroller. All right, I'm going to change her diaper. You're going to do this. And really kind of making the operation smooth so that when we arrive to the mall, everything's in place, packing the bags and everything. So the way that that's translated for me is efficiency with being responsive to my patients. So I've implemented a lot of AI automations into my practice so that my patients never feel neglected. What I don't want them to feel is that if they call our practice, that they won't hear from anyone. I want them to feel like, you know what? I called, I had an auto attendant if I didn't speak to someone, and speak to a human person. Or, hey, I sent a text message to the practice securely. I got an auto reply message letting me know when I would hear back from them. And so I think those things have just really helped me to become a better communicator and better with kind of making the step-by-step decisions to make the grand picture happen.
So, in closing, give us a couple of your learnings about resilience. How would you encapsulate those learnings?
I would encapsulate those learnings in the following ways. One, no one's coming to save you. And I tell myself this all the time, and I'm not saying that, to tell anyone like they don't have any support, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's up to you to shape your life. And it is scary. Sometimes you're all alone. Sometimes people in your life don't understand. But waking up every day and refusing to give up, refusing to take no for an answer and just throw in the towel, and finding new ways to learn, different ways to impact your life in a positive way, and being able to also set boundaries and sticking to those boundaries and saying, this is my priority. This is what I'm doing. Everything else will follow. And it has to fall in line with what has to happen with my family. So I think that particularly as a female doctor, I struggled with that because I wanted to be everything for everyone. And then I looked up and I was like, man, my son is 3 or 4. I'm working all these hours. I'm so tired. I'm sleeping, when he's home. That sort of everything happened for a reason where I was sort of almost forced to, not forced to, but everything, the stars aligned where I could truly put my family first and be a happy doctor and a happy mom and wife. And so I think, don't be afraid to pivot. It's very scary pivoting in the middle of something that you're comfortable with. It's scary to pivot, away from people that you've known for a long time, but it's okay to outgrow people and situations. And I think if your priorities are aligned with who you are, whatever decision that you make will work out because you're prioritizing what is the most important to you.
Dr. Edwards, thank you for those words of wisdom.
Thank you.
And particularly in the present times, we have to remember no one is coming to save us. And we should not be afraid to pivot, and we should set priorities.
Right.
So well said, and so well being practiced by you.
Thank you.
We are delighted and we appreciate the time that you have spent with us and the personal stories that you have shared. And we wish you every success in your practice. And please say hello to your parents. And since I'm a father who has daughters who are doctors, tell him I said he did good.
I will tell him.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.